Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world right now. This is Amrys Wang of the Raw Entrepreneur. This is a special PawdX series that I invite speakers like Dr. Jeff Feinman from Holistic Actions to come on board and to share his knowledge with pet parents who are striving to become more conscious pet parents in today's world. So let me just give you a very short introduction on who Dr. Jeff is. He is a research-oriented certified veterinary homeopath and molecular biologist who has been experimenting with his own genetic disease symptoms for over 40 years. He is a past president of the Academy of Veterinary Homeopathy and is a current board member and chairman of the Research and Education Committee. His articles have been published in peer-reviewed journals, and some can currently be found on the holisticactions.com blog. He is the founder and teacher of Holistic Actions with the exclamation mark, an online platform which helps pet parents decide how to best help their pets. He and his wife Amy live with Archie, a rescue pup, and Rex cat named Tigger. And one thing that I like what Dr. Jeff always signs off in his emails is he likes to share ways to have happier pets and save money using holistic actions. Holistic actions today, I think they span 15 countries with membership across 3 continents. And he is aiming for, was it 1 million? Members or the 1 billion members? I can't remember, but he's very ambitious. He's truly, truly very ambitious. And I'm so blessed and thankful for him to join us today. Hi, Dr. Jeff.
Hello, Amrys, and thanks so much for inviting me. I'm very grateful to be here. Yeah.
Okay. So,
and our goal is 1 million pet parents empowered with the information we're going to talk about by 2025. So hope you're doing your part.
yeah. So for listeners who don't know much about Dr. Jeff, one of the things I have the deepest respect for this man is because he defied all odds by surviving a mysterious disease that puzzled medical professionals for almost 40 years until 2010, when it was finally given a name, Spinocerebellar ataxia, or SCA for short. Unfortunately, there is still no definitive treatment, but that has not stopped him from pursuing his dreams of helping pet parents and their companion animals. So this is one man that I love and have the deepest respect for. He's like super brainy. Like seriously, he's like an awesome dude. I love this guy so much. So today, Dr. Jeff, would you like to explain, what is holistic actions to our listeners and what you
Sure.
do?
Well, the actions that we're talking about are all described in the holistic actions. Are you asking about just in general about holistic actions with the
Yeah,
platform?
yeah. I mean, you can explain to them what holistic actions as the platform is in terms of your, membership and even your foundation, just to let everyone know, because
Sure.
I don't think the Mind Valley members especially are familiar with your platform.
Thank you for asking. Our goal is to get the information out there that isn't out there to hopefully help us to increase our pets' immune resilience in ways that nature intended. And Holistic Actions platform is just an online membership, pet parent membership area where they can get, anyone can get one-on-one guidance, from veterinarians, on the forum, on weekly webinars that are disease and symptom focused, and putting everything into context of conventional medicine. So we're not there to treat pets, we're there to inform pet parents about what's available, what's out there. And yes, my my perspective as a patient for 46 years is actually the genesis for a lot of these actions, because the things that helped me are what we're now applying to the animals.
So, what are you focusing on nowadays?
Well, that is a really good question. We're focusing on ways to decrease susceptibility, meaning that ways that make pets more resilient to whatever they encounter in their environment, whether that's infectious agents, bacteria, viruses, toxins, pet lifestyle, something happens to them, in their lives. The more resilient that the pets are, the less the diseases and fewer the infections they're going to get.
Mm. So, in terms of, because you do homeopathy for pets, um, and I'm just curious, how does that work with animals?
Well, this isn't about homeopathy, in that the holistic actions usually are not related directly to homeopathy, but they're all related to energetic balance. So internal balance we're finding in science is the flow of information and energy in the body, and there are ways to get that better balance, which decrease susceptibility and make pets less likely to get sick from any disease, from infections or otherwise. So homeopathy is just a way to use the clues that a pet's body is giving us, symptom clues about what's going on in their body as individuals. We see every pet as a snowflake. They're all different. So there is no treatment. There is no homeopathic remedy or any remedy specific for Cushing's, because one pet with Cushing's may need a whole different individualized plan and remedy than any other pet.
So I noticed on your website you have something called the happiness protocol. Could you elaborate on what that is?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, the happiness protocol is a way to increase that energetic balance that we just talked about. That's really super easy to do for pets. Not so easy for us with our brains, because our brains get in the way, but for pets, it's really easy because we can just take them out for a sniff walk or play or purring, or give them a happy meal and they're happier. And that actually helps improve their immune system's ability to fight germs. And the way actually the happiness protocol came to be is one of my own pets, beloved young 9-year young standard poodle, passed away a couple of years ago from kidney failure from Lyme disease, or associated with Lyme disease. Her Lyme level was 250. We would like to see it below like 10, 20. It's called the C6 level. And she was sick for a long time and being treated, and never really responded the way I would like to see her respond. Well, the day after she passed away, I tested Archie, my other dog, who's actually right off there, sleeping with his beautiful new bow tie. I tested him, and he was also fine. It was 250. He was 750, the highest level possible for the C6. And he was already getting into kidney disease. And just by upgrading his happiness level with sniff walks, extra happy meals, what's called beam training, we were able to get his body to do its job and start decreasing the Lyme organisms and normalize his kidney function within a couple of months.
So what is this beam thing that you're referring to? BEAM, is that correct?
BEAM is the central part of the happiness protocol. It's also the central part of really all of the holistic actions that we teach, and that is focusing on quality of life instead of individual symptoms, diseases, or diagnoses. BEAM stands for behavior, energy, appetite, and mood. So we like to say, turn the high beams onto better health for your pets. So you're basically closely monitoring their balance, their internal balance, as reflected by their beam, which is something you can see every day. Does your dog bark for his food the way you usually would? Do they eat as quickly? Does the cat interact as often as usual? Is he starting to pee outside the box or poop? Is there something going on in the beam that basically is a clue that internally they're
Mm.
imbalanced?
So, would, like the cases that you've come across, um, lately, like, what is the number one issue that you see pet parents come to holistic actions for?
Part of the number one are allergic symptoms. Skin itchiness, hot spots, ears, other allergy signs. And we see allergies as an immune imbalance. Rather than focus on the cause or the trigger of the allergies, we're focusing on the cause, which is the immune balance. The more
Right.
balanced, the more resilient, the less susceptible, the less likely that you're going to get an allergic symptom. So, like myself, I've got celiac disease, which is an extreme gluten intolerance, but I focus on my own balance. I have to for other reasons. And by doing that, my celiac symptoms are minimized.
So normally, when you talk about, say, beam for behavior, what sort of things do you look for or look at, and how, do you have any example cases for us?
Any change is really significant. So that the example, for example, Brain is a golden with severe kidney failure from Lyme also, and the way Sue first detected the problem was just that Brain wasn't barking for her meals like usual. She was eating a little bit slower than usual. And that was the first clue that allowed early detection of something going on in her body. And that is followed up by doing blood work and exam and all the routine stuff. But we use that information to inform what you do, not necessarily, direct what you do, meaning that if you go to the vet and get a diagnosis, they may say, well, you have to give an antibiotic, you have to give steroids, but it's good to look at the full context to see what other actions may be helpful.
Right. And then you said from B is behavior, and what's E again?
Energy. So
Energy.
do they get up like usual? Do they catch the ball as often as usual? Does your kitty get the zoomies as often as usual, more often, less often? What's different? That kind of thing. So that's where homeopathy comes in. It looks very, very closely to all of these subtle changes.
Right. And then A is for, I can't remember now. What's A?
Appetite.
Appetite. That's right.
Appetite. Yeah. That's one of the easiest to monitor because that's, are they eating? Are they not eating? In what way are they not eating? How often are they not eating? How quickly do they eat? How slowly do they eat? All the parameters related to eating.
Is there a general diet that you sort of recommend normally?
There is, and that is the freshest diet that you can afford to give. So that could be, a varied fresh food diet, the way many of us eat. That may be a cooked food diet, that may be farmer's dog, that may be raw food, but the more variety, the better.
Okay. An M for beam.
The M is the most objective, and that is mood.
Mood.
If you're, and we don't know because they can't tell us, they're depressed or they're anxious. We can see, more objective clues that make us say or make us want to say that a pet is anxious or depressed, but it's almost
So,
always reflected in their behavior specifically.
so say like I'm a beginner pet parent and I don't know any of these things. When I say do a consultation with Holistic Actions, you'll be able to guide us on what are the things that we should look out for using the BEAM protocol.
Absolutely, except that we don't do consultations. That's a
Ah,
one-on-one consultation with
mm,
the veterinarian.
okay,
We're there to help guide you with the information about what to look for and all the things that you're alluding to. But yeah, we're not doing one-on-one care. They get the closest to that is a 24/7 forum that's available 24 hours, 7 days a week, where you can ask your questions, put everything in context, get feedback from veterinarians, or get a once a month what's called an HMDM call, or holistic medical decision making call. And
right.
that is also to better help guide you to what your options are.
So normally, what kind of what are the usual like topics or so far you've had recently for Holistic Actions?
Oh, thanks for asking. In January through March, we've been focusing on something called One Health Medicine. That is a form of medicine that sees pets, people, and the planet all as one. So we all share the same life force, and the strategies that we're talking about are good for us, they're good for pets, and they're good for the planet because we're working along with nature.
Right. You know, there's some people who don't, I don't know, don't believe in holistic actions, like the modalities, you know, um, and some pet parents might be worried and nervous, coming from, conventional vets normally, like me, for instance, when I first started as a very ignorant pet parent, I went to my conventional vet and, basically it was always steroids and antibiotics and um, that was the answer for almost everything. And I realized after a while that it wasn't solving a lot of things. And for me, I turned to more holistic modalities really out of desperation, you know. But would you say, like how would you explain to pet parents how does it work, or like is there a scientific basis in what you're doing?
Great question. Thanks for asking. And yes, the answer is yes. Everything is science-based that we do. not the modalities per se, but things like, breathing or therapeutic sniff walk, all science is in books like this for people, but no, unfortunately, it's not science-based. It's not research proven in dogs and cats for the most part. Things like happiness and positive attitude and exercise and good food and breathing are just now beginning to get, thought about and measured and researched in animals. So it's going to be years before the data is out and be able to say it is science-based, but you can start today, and that is what the intent of holistic actions is.
You
To
know,
help you start today.
this is story that I think not everyone has heard, especially for new listeners. But what drove you to start Holistic Actions?
I think basically it was my being in science and conventional medicine for a decade and not knowing about any of this stuff. And then eventually, once I learned about it, pet parents calling me with the problem, and they've been to multiple vets, but none have suggested fresh food feeding or any of the strategies that we're talking about. So it's really just, a lack of information was what spurred us onto starting, holistic actions is a way to integrate the conventional and the holistic models. Conventional medicine, can be holistic. Holistic really just means that we're looking at the full picture rather than reductionistic, where we're reducing it down to, one little organ system or one, you've got an eye problem, you've got an ear problem, you've got, but it's all related.
Mm. Would you say your approach is functional in terms of the modalities that you use when you analyze like an animal that is sick, for instance, because you actually with the beam protocol and your happiness protocol, it seems like you really place a lot of emphasis on uh, maybe what some pet parents might call the intangible, like emotional side. I don't know, you know. Yeah.
And it is really, really super important to quantitate and measure as much as possible. So we're not, and that's why I say the mood is the one thing that really can't be quantitated. Everything else is quantitatable, whether it's by blood work, whether it's by diagnostic tests, whether it's by the speed of getting up to go to the door or speed of eating. It's all measurable and very concrete.
Okay. So you definitely do encourage pet parents that they must go to the conventional vet to do all the diagnostic testing, the blood tests and everything,
Correct.
even if it's a stool test, urinalysis, um, to actually get the information to start putting together the pieces of what is going on with your sick animal as a whole, and not just an itchy ear and you just try to deal with the itchy ear and then you forget about, you know, ignoring all the other symptoms or even like the diet, for instance. That I don't know, in my personal experience, usually when you improve the diet, that sort of makes a huge difference because a lot of pet parents still do feed a lot of processed food. Um, and I have found just that little tweak seems to help. But then there's always more, like you said, with behavior and the mood everything else is all interrelated. It's actually integrated, what you're describing, instead of what do you call it? Separate, like, oh, what's the itchy ear? And then vets usually just focus on the itchy ear and they'll say like, okay, you have some antibiotics and some cream and go back. And they don't actually look at any other thing.
Right. Yep. And that's a really good point. Is really you can boil it all down to one thing, and that is you're working with nature. And if it's if it's working against something, whether it's an anti-inflammatory like a steroid or an antibiotic, for killing bacteria, or anti this or anti that, then it's probably working against the body instead of working with the healing mechanisms.
So with holistic actions, could you who's on your team besides you?
We've got around 3 or 4 veterinarians on the faculty. There's a trainer, a groomer, and there's probably about a dozen or so adjunct faculty veterinarians, all of whom have their own special area of interest, whether it's a conventional vet or internist or somebody that practices traditional Chinese medicine, or like myself, a homeopath, or somebody that does physical therapy. So it really depends on the individual. That's actually our answer pretty much to every medical question, and that actually is the answer to every medical question. Is it depends, and it depends on the context of the individual.
Well, Dr. Jeff, I want to thank you for spending this time, because I know you're a really busy man, and you have, always been very gracious with your time. And the last time when I spoke to you, I think we actually did quite a we had quite a long conversation, and that was really amazing. But I know you're actually a really busy fella, so I really want to thank you for your time to explain what you do, and I actually do hope that, our Mind Valley members, especially who never heard of Holistic Actions, will go to the website and have a look. They do have some awesome talks by guest speakers as well, which I think is really cool. And it gives you an alternative option to conventional medicine and approach. And whether or not you're open to exploring, but it's something that I think, if you're like me, who had to see your cat and dog suffer time and time again, and the conventional vet um, was basically treating the symptoms but not the root cause of it. Um, it got me very frustrated. Plus, it was a very costly affair, I have to say. And I like the fact that, your tag slogan in your email is always way, like, to help save, to have happier pets and to save money, you know. And I do wish that I knew you years ago, because then I would have saved thousands and thousands of dollars on my animals, honestly, honestly. So I just want to thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for having me, Amrys, and you can use as much time as you want whenever you want, because there's nothing more important to me in these years to getting the word out there. So thank you for having me, and thank you for spreading the word.
Wow, I'm so thankful and grateful that you took the time to listen to this podcast. It would mean the world to me if you could subscribe, download, rate, review, and share this with others whom you care about that may enjoy it as well. Thank you, and remember to be kind to yourself and others. Have a awesome day, everyone.